The pink pill is the pink pill now. Put your pinkies up now, up now, up. Live well to the extreme now. Put your pinkies up now, up now, up.
Hey, it's Pinky. You're on the Pink Pill YouTube channel. Be a love and like, share, and subscribe. Pinkies up.
Hey, it's the Pink Pill again, back with another video, and thank you for joining me. I want to talk to you guys today about a discussion that we had in the Pink Pill Underground. Normally, all of that is top secret, but one of our very own mental health professionals said something that was so profound, I simply had to share it. She said in her presentation at one point that we don't necessarily seek happiness in relationships. We seek familiarity. My mind went. She also said that we look for people who are damaged like us, and when we don't, we reject them. And why do we reject them? Because they're too healthy. It's not anything we know how to deal with. It is unfamiliar. So when we talk about why women like us don't date nice guys, why are we going after a certain type of guy over and over and over again? It really brought home that we're all looking not for happiness, even though we say consciously, and that may be the truth. We're looking for familiarity. We're looking for what feels like home. Now, when it comes to interracial relationships or just dating within your race, that can happen, right? You meet a normal, healthy black guy, he's boring. You meet a normal, healthy white guy, he's boring. On and on, on and on. But I want to go a little bit deeper with that. The idea of what's familiar, the idea of the devil that you know. Because when I talk about interracial relationships, you guys know I wrote a book in 2012 called Swirling. People seem to have so many warnings and admonitions and lots of danger signs and beware signs when it comes to black women dating or marrying interracially. Those same warning signs and danger signs don't seem to be there for the men who do it twice as much, but that's a whole other video. But what I don't hear is those same warnings about vetting when it comes to men within their own race. So what happens is that black girls and women have been taught very on to be very wary and suspicious of non-black people in general, and specifically non-black men in relationships, and even more specifically, white men. They give you a whole host of reasons, and these reasons have been well digested by black women because I hear them all the time. But the fact of the matter is that the same warnings that black girls and women are given when it comes to dating interracially, they're not given for black men within their own communities. But if you do a side-by-side comparison about the typical things that people say that black women should be wary of when it comes to dating interracially, and specifically white men, and you put that up against what's happening in our community, it kind of makes you scratch your head. It kind of makes you wonder what's really going on here. And part of the unfamiliarity is about the idea of doing something new. We all kind of know what to expect from men within our own communities. Most of us have really no idea what to expect from men outside of the community. So it becomes very familiar. You've got the familiar versus the unfamiliar. But when we're talking about warnings that many black women get when it comes to these types of mixed relationships, again, when you stack them up side to side, you gotta wonder what's really going on here. And listen, before I give the list, I wanna say this. I absolutely agree that we black women need to do a better job of vetting everybody. I don't want you to vet black men less. I don't want you to vet white men less because they're white. I don't want you to vet black men less because they're black or Hispanic or Arab or Native American, whatever, Asian. I don't want you to do that. I want you to vet everyone equally because, well, that's just being smart. But when you are told to be specifically wary of a particular group of people for specific reasons, you need to explore what those reasons are and why those people are so persistent in letting you know those things. So let's start with the list. One of the things that I hear oftentimes, many people comment on my YouTube videos and say, why are you encouraging black women to be in interracial relationships? You know those men are not going to take them seriously. And I say to myself, really? Really? And black men take black women seriously? It kind of makes me wonder, with the highest out of wedlock rates, the lowest marriage rates, the highest divorce rates, the fact that many black women are engaged in multiple partner relationships without their knowledge or consent, the fact that reproductive coercion is running rampant in our community and is never discussed, you're really coming at me with saying that black women should be wary of non-black men because they'll consider them playthings? What are we now? What's going on? Next comment that I get, why are you telling these black women to get with these white boys? They're never going to marry them. Oh, that's weird because black men aren't really marrying us either. Black men marry at 43%. And of that 43%, 24% marry interracially. There's slim pickings when it comes to marriage in this community. And here's another little tidbit of trivia that I think you'll be interested in. The fact that when my book came out in 2012, interracial relationships was hovering around 9-10% for 20 years since they had started keeping track in the 80s. From 2012 to 2015, interracial marriages between black women and non-black men went from 9% to 12%. That's a 33% increase in 3 years. So from 2012 to 2015, it rose 33%. And the numbers are even higher because here we are in 2022, and I think somebody's scared to release those numbers because I already know, and if you just look outside, you'll know too, that those numbers are really increasing. So what is happening is that these non-black men are marrying black women. And in a lot of cases, particularly when black women marry white men, their marriages last longer. So that's another fail when it comes to warning black women about non-black men. But let's keep going.
Girl, you better not get with them white boys. He gonna lock you in this basement and kill you.
Oh, really? Is that what they'll do? Well, thanks to the tireless work of Rosa at Black Femicide, we now know that black girls and women are being killed less than every 6 hours. And they're not being killed by white boys. They're getting killed by men and women within their own community and of their own race. The majority of the time, I mean high 90s, the majority of the time. So the people who are actually killing us are not non-black people. It's us. So I fail to understand why people in our community feel the need to warn black women about the dangers of being killed by a non-black person, but can barely muster any attention to Black Femicide. Contribute any money, by the way. If you would like to do so, I will put that link in the description box, or support or even spread the word. So if people are really concerned about the deaths of black girls and women, they should not be looking towards white men. They should be looking towards themselves, because we're the ones, people who look like us, that are killing us. And that's the truth. The next one that I get, he'll fetishize you. It's so crazy. I can't tell you how many emails, direct messages, tweets that I've gotten from women who have said, I'm terrified of dating interracially. I kind of want to, but I'm terrified of doing it because I'm so worried that he's gonna consider me a fetish and I don't wanna be fetishized. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's really weird. Why is that weird? Well, let me just tell you a quick story. I just recently rewatched a movie from 2001 called Baby Boy. I actually just did a video about it. If you click the link, you can take a look at that deep dive overview. And one thing that I noticed about all the women in that movie was they all had regular bodies. They were, curvaceous, but they were slim, and they had normal sized breasts and butts. Fast forward post Kim Kardashian days, and every Instagram model who's black has a body like Jessica Rabbit. Now, how did that happen? And why is that happening? It's not because white men are interested in that look. It's not the reason why the gross GDP of the Dominican Republic is skyrocketing because everybody's flying there for BBLs. If we're so concerned about being fetishes, then I think we need to look a little bit closer to home before we point the fingers at anybody outside of the community that may be doing that. The next comment is, he's never going to accept your skin tone, your features, or your texture hair. Really? I have to tell you, I've been in this business for 12 years, and when I've interviewed so many interracial couples, particularly white men with black women, the women tend to be really on the darker side of brown and very proudly wear their natural, kinky, curly hair. And you know what? Their partners love it. But you know what I also see? I recently went to Atlanta to meet a friend, and while I was there, I saw the majority of black women with wigs or weaves that went all the way down to their tailbones. And they weren't kinky or curly, they were bone straight. What I see is black women trying to twist themselves in a pretzel to have the kind of hair that they believe the men that they want. And let's not even talk about colorism, where the men tell us through word and deed, whether overtly or covertly, that they preferred a lighter shade of brown, going towards the, this dress is probably a good representation, right? So we're talking about colorism within our community, but saying that men of other races aren't going to like us because of our color. Well, hell, men in our own race don't like us because of our color. It's statistically proven. Now, does that mean that all black men don't like dark-skinned black women who wear their natural hair? No, but there's enough that don't, because there wouldn't be studies that reinforce it. And we see it in our movies, we see it in music videos, we see it with celebrities and who they choose. And this whole thing is backwards. We've got people on YouTube who wear straight doll hair saying that women who wear their natural hair are wearing it to fulfill some sort of slave fetish by their white partners. Yep. You know what I'm talking about. So the whole thing is absolutely bizarre. We're being warned to vet a group of men, and what is familiar to us and what is really the issue, what really is the basis of much of our struggle, nobody's advising us about anything when it comes to them. Not in the same way that they do about interracial relationships. We don't get the same doom and gloom and the world is going to end if black women date interracially. We don't get that when we say we're only going to date black men, even if they're problematic, even if they have all of the issues that I've said before. Everything seems to be excused because maybe it's familiar. And finally, when he gets mad at you, he's going to call you mean names. Really? So are you telling me that when black men get mad at black women that they're in relationships with, that they don't call them mean names? Really? Are you sure? Are you gonna go with that answer? Going with something familiar isn't necessarily healthy. And things that are unfamiliar don't have to be as scary as you make them out to be. Why would you want to be in a familiar situation if you're not going to be happy? Focus on the happiness and not the familiarity. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some self-talk. It's going to take some counseling. But you're going to have to look at the hypocrisy of the messages that you've been told, and also your own filters. What you see as familiar isn't necessarily healthy. It just means that you're used to it. Do you want your relationship to be a war zone constantly just because it's familiar and what you're used to? Or do you want to challenge yourself and be happy instead of going with what the devil you know is doing? It's up to you. I'm Crystalline Colorism, the creator of The Pink Pill and author of Swirling How to Date, Mate, and Relate, Mixing Race, Culture, and Creed. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, pinkies up.